Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to this session on the Paris Agreement we want for Africa and exploring what we can deliver ahead of during COP26 and ahead of COP27 in Africa. So today I'm delighted to have two great panelists with us. The first one is Mr. Adedoyin Adeleke. I hope that I pronounce it well. The Executive Director of ISNAT Africa. And the second one is Mr. Brian Omeni, the Coordinator at the Sustainable Energy Access Forum, Kenya. So welcome at this Panda Pavilion, and we'll be happy really to have a great discussion with you guys. And as all of us know, Africa is really in the front line of climate crisis. And we know as well that Africa could also drive transformative changes to reverse the trends in Africa and how we are going to help our people, our key sector dealing with climate change. And one thing that we are going to discuss today is how Africa are ready really to still addressing climate change in Africa, how we are going to put in place bold commitment as well that will help us to frame the climate agenda as well for the COP26 in Africa. So, and as we know, as we are here in COP26, we've heard about what's happening in Africa. Just talking about the drought that Africa is suffering now in many parts of the continent. Talking as well of the cyclones that hit like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and the countries, and how climate change as well is affecting all of our sector, not just mentioning the water, mentioning the biodiversity, mentioning as well the forest and all of the key sectors. So we are suffering from this climate change, and there are already many evidence on the table. So how we can be well prepared for that? And we are now, I think that the decision is now on the discussion, what will be the outcomes of this COP26. So as we are already start late, I will give the floor to the panelists to introduce themselves first. And my first question to you is how in your respective organization, how we are really progressing in terms of climate agenda and pushing forward the climate agenda. What are still the challenges, opportunities that I would say are challenges that you are facing, and as well as opportunities that we could bring on for Africa? So we will start with you, Adedoyin.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for having me. My name is Adedoyin Adeleke. You can call me Hadi to make it simple. And I'm the Executive Director for International Support Network for African Development, headquartered in Nigeria, but we operate globally. Basically, I think I'll just say two or three things first, and then we can see. I think that the challenges of climate issues in Africa are underestimated, and I think that the opportunities are underused. I believe very strongly Africa has the capacity to rise up to its challenge, really. However, lack of understanding, let's not say lack, but probably an inadequate understanding of the challenges of climate issues in Africa, coupled with our limited knowledge of available resources and capacity that we can leverage to address this issue, it's where the bulk of the issue lies. And what do I mean? When you go to international meetings and forums like this, you hear a lot of talk about government. But honestly, the government is at the headquarters. They are the capital city in the offices. And understanding, keeping in mind the peculiarity of Africa, which are the bulk of our activities, including the economy, are informal. So also are the actors. The actors do not have offices. They are on the streets. They are in the creeks. They are in rural communities. Yet, because of also the very wide gap between government and those guys who we really don't have a way of accounting for their activity and the challenges they face. Therefore, the challenges are there, and then we are making policies which are not really effective. So for me, I think in summary, I would say that the challenges are enormous, really, and we have very limited understanding of the challenges. The opportunities to address them are also there, but we are too far, and the solution we prefer are too far from where the challenges are. Thank you for now.
Thanks so much, Adedoyi. So I think that you raised really a key points that the opportunities out there but too far. So I think that maybe I will come to that question, how we can really unlock the opportunities for Africa. But I will give you the floor, Brian, just to give your thoughts on the question.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Omenyi. I'm the coordinator, Sustainable Energy Access Forum Kenya. We are a network that brings together various stakeholders, and our main concern or area of focus is to advocate for access to renewable energy within Kenya. And just agreeing with my brother, Africa faces unique challenges. And I think one of the challenges we have in Africa is that we have not sought to have solutions that solve African problems. What we have done is to always look after solutions which are meant for developed countries and trying to adapt them for Africa. So one of the things that I think and I believe that we should do as Africa is to focus on our problems and how we can be able to come up with solutions that address our the problems we're facing as Africa. The other thing, there are so many underlying challenges in Africa that sometimes make our local people not to take climate change seriously. I'll just use an example. In the issue of clean cooking, if you go to the village and tell that local person, don't cut down trees because it has an impact on climate change, that person probably will not understand that because their immediate problem is to cook food. And therefore, if you tell them not to cut down trees, for them, they won't understand the effect of climate change at that moment. Their major concern will be, how do I prepare food for my family so that we eat? And therefore, for me, I believe there are so many other underlying problems which we need to face, to solve, because they, in the effect, contribute to the whole climate change discussions. And therefore, climate change is not a single or doesn't act as a unit. There are other nexus areas which I think if we address, we can be able then to see how we come up with solutions to this main problem, which is climate change. The other challenge we have as Africa is lack of unity. For instance, when we are here at COP26, each country is pushing its own agenda. And I think our governments at some point, they get promised with a lot of financial benefits, or there's financial benefits they are going to get that helps them, that in the end makes them not to come up with proper and concrete decisions as a unit that is going to push for proper negotiations in the when they are having the negotiations. So I believe there is need for Africa to be united, so that when we go before the negotiation table, we have an agenda that we can push to help us solve the main problems, because we feel the brunt of the effects of climate change, and so we need to really be united in these discussions.
Thanks so much. So in hearing of your thoughts regarding to that, so now we are really at the heart of COP26. So do you feel that many of these challenges that you are mentioning are not really taken into account in the decision that is coming soon, and that it's really reflect the Paris Agreement that we Africa want? Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not in the negotiation room, so I really don't know yet. However, tracking historically, you see that I can partly say I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong anyways, but at least with what is on the ground, I really don't say that been done over the years. And what I see is really that the people with the solutions are not the people with the resources. The people with the resources are not the people with solutions. My friend was talking about local, where the solutions we are deploying in Africa are only by adapting. Sometimes it's even adopting, which is a problem, really. But the best of it that we have been doing is adapting. Where do we place the efforts and the investment towards designing and implementing African-based solutions? This is not a marketing forum, but I just tell you a bit about things that we're doing in this regard. For instance, I think I'll tell you a story shortly. When I was doing my master's in Nigeria, I picked on a topic on renewable energy, which as of that time, about 5 years ago, nobody has ever done any kind of research in that line before. So I had a good topic, I had a good supervisor. Unfortunately, he does not have capacities on renewable energy. He doesn't have capacity in that area of research. So I had the idea of what I wanted to do. I had nobody to help me. In terms of supervision and support and all that. Now, I began to reach out all over the world to people working in World Bank, African, so many places. And at the end of the day, I got somebody who helped me remotely. My supervisor only did mere reading. Now, after doing that, that's really affected my career really in a very positive way. I was in 6 countries with that research, with a lot of support. Now, how about thousands of African youth in African universities who do not even know how to write email? I'm sorry, we have that. You know why I know? Because when I was able to come over the challenge, I saw that there are a lot of people that will be in my shoes, and I saw some of them, really, my colleagues, who do not have the capacity to go all the way that I went to get somebody abroad to support them. So I started what they call the Mentoring for Research program, where we look for youth in African universities who are in any discipline, who are doing research on anything called green growth, sustainable energy, environment, climate change. And then we now as an organization reach out to people in diaspora, in international organizations, including World Bank, Harvard University, and they are supporting the student today. Now, today we are able to help Africa generate indigenous knowledge using its people within its context. So that's one. We also do a lot in secondary schools. We have seen in Nakuru in Kenya, we have supported students who saw that in their school they are spending a lot of money, I think 60,000 Kenya shillings, on fuel wood for cooking. And this student came up, okay, we have 13 cows on our compound here that are polluting the environment. Can we convert their feces to biogas? We supported them, and they designed a biogas plant that is already working today. Quite a number of solutions. However, these are our limited and small effort that we can do with our limited resources. Whereas, there are the people up there who can mobilize support to support this initiative, but there is that gap. And that brings me to my last point before I stop. That's the linkage. Having deployed a couple of solutions like this in different countries, we have, about 27 countries in Africa already. We saw that there is gap. And then we're not looking at ourselves alone as an organization. We see a lot of other initiatives in Africa who also have myriads of solutions, but they don't have the linkage up there to get resources. Therefore, we design a new technology that is able to, that is focused on local initiatives and local actors. Let me mention this before I close. Many of these local initiatives, and even the one we are doing and what they are doing, they have their immediate and local impact, which is very good. Thanks to that. However, those small initiatives, as small as planting trees, they can impact international policy. They have global implications, but nobody is tracking. So we design a technology which will be launched in January next year, to where these local actors, CSOs, individuals can come up and use this technology. Immediately they select planting trees. We have scientifically linked anything you can think about green growth. and it will bring the contributions of those initiatives to SDGs, to Green Growth Framework, including the African Union 2023 agenda. So I think why I mentioned this, it's not a marketing forum anyway, I'm sorry, but I'm mentioning this to show how local actors who have the solutions do not have access to those who have the tools. So I think more can be done in terms of linkages. There are pockets of ideas here and there. There are pockets of resources. Let's link them up. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. How do you think about that, Brian?
I can't agree more with him. One of the things that as Africa I think we are pushing for is if we are going to get financial support, let it be in form of grants, not debt. Africa is already indebted, and like my country, Kenya, my friend, Kenya is in debt. And like this year we had the government introducing 16% VAT on liquid petroleum gas. Gas is one of the ways that we have been advocating for as one of the clean cooking solutions, so that people transition from using charcoal and all that. And one of the discussions, because we engaged the government and were like, you guys have updated the NDCs, and the targets for the previous targets were 30%. Now they have updated to 32%. But then you go ahead and introduce VAT. You know, on the sidelines, we are being told there are external forces which are pushing them to introduce some of these like the VAT, so that they can generate more money to pay back the debts they are owing, which is quite an unfortunate thing. And so we need to have Africa being supported, not to be in more problems, but to help solve the problems. Secondly, the issue of climate change, we must realize it's about the livelihoods of people. When floods come, it's just about somebody losing, being displaced, losing their house and all that. It's about their livelihoods. This person will probably move to a different place. If it's a community which has been affected, they will probably lose their source of income. They will have to lose their identity. If it's drought, we have so many pastoralists in Kenya. If they lose their livestock, which is their main source of income, this person is going, this not just a person actually, this community is going to face a lot of impacts. So when we're talking about climate change, and I feel sad that these people don't take into consideration that a community is involved, lives are involved in the process, the cultural beliefs, the traditions of people are in danger. Because when you displace indigenous community, for instance, that is their home, that is their everything, that is where they worship, that is they get the food, that is how they're able to protect and preserve their cultural identity. So when they are displaced, they are in danger of losing their identity. If we take into considerations the impact and the extent to which climate change has impacts on our communities, then I don't think we should actually be sitting every year discussing about these things. So it's upon our leaders to really stop thinking about the economy. You know, I've been in places where sadly some African leaders were like, you know, developed countries used coal to develop. So we also need to use some coal so that we also develop like them and, you know, get to that level where they are. You know, such kind of mentality of it's about the economy against what impacts it is going to have on the lives of our people. That is the kind of things we need to shift from, so that we can be able to ensure that these problems you're facing are addressed. So in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, I wished that this COP26 could have transitioned from talks to action, but I don't think we're going to get much of that.
Thanks so much. I think that in a nutshell, that we need African solution, and we need to move to action now, and not stop talking, but really to go ahead and move really to implementation. And maybe my last question to you. I think that you have already mentioned some of them, but just in short, What is really your call of action for this COP26? As I think that you still have the floor, and I think many people are seeing us as well in this discussion. What is your call for action for this COP26 outcome? And as well as that will help us as well to frame the COP27 that will be in Africa. And we need, as African, we need really to lead that. So just in short.
Okay, thank you. My call to action is very simple. Number one, the idea of bringing COP27 to Africa is highly welcome. Number one. Number two, when we discuss climate action, we're talking not in 5 years. We're not talking in 7 years. We're talking about decades. Climate issues are defined within 25 to 30 years. Honestly speaking, in the next 30 years, almost everybody here will be out of stage. Can we please put the guys who will live in that future we are defining, can we please put them at the center of decision making now? I think we need to work a lot with youth. There are solutions. I mean, if you go to negotiation room, for instance, I believe probably you meet 50, 60s-year-old there. These guys will be out of stage, honestly. But can we please put, and then what I observe, which is very funny to me though, when we say, oh, we want to include youth inclusion, very powerful, good. And then you see a panel of 10 people, a committee of 10 people, and they put one youth hanging somewhere. For me, it's just to say, oh, so that it doesn't look as if we didn't involve you. That's not youth inclusion. It's supposed to be youth-centered, youth-focused. Why the elderly sit? To give support based on history that they know. The young people are the 21st century people who understand the 21st century context and can give solution to 21st century issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian?
I think my call to action is to challenge African countries to really shift the focus also from depending on international aid to developing solution within their local context, within the capacity they have. Because let me tell you, Africa, we have resources. We have the capacity. I think it's this colonial mentality that we have of always relying on foreign support that has made us not to really think outside the box. So I think Africa needs to wake up, come up with solutions. If it's issues of technology, it's sad. In Kenya, you find, we have so many technologies being imported into our country, and these are solutions which have failed in other countries, and now we are being considered like a dumping site for, poor quality technologies. And for the quality technologies which come, they are quite expensive, which we cannot afford. Therefore, Africa needs to rise up, invest in research, invest in technology, invest in innovation. And young people, as he has said, need to be empowered, because this technological era that we are in, as young people, we have the capacity to be able to do research, do innovations, and our governments need to really invest in young people, because these young people he's talking about, who will be the leaders in the next decade, need to be empowered. So Africa needs to tap into the potential that it has existing at the moment and invest in it seriously so that we can be able to solve the solutions. As a young person also, I think as young people, in as much as we have the potential, we also need to be organized. We need to be involved in what our governments are doing. Somebody said the other day, yes, we will come and organize climate strikes, but do we even understand what our NDCs are from our various governments? Do we understand the agenda that our governments are pushing here? So it's not all about organizing climate strikes. It's not about posting on social media. We also need to be organized as young people so that we can be meaningfully involved in these discussions. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I really like that we Africa, we need really to rise up. We need to wake up. And also to design locally led solutions. So now I'm giving the floor to the audiences. for 2 questions from what we are hearing from our great panelists.
So thank you so much for these great insights from your side. You mentioned something important, something that actually touched me. You spoke about unity, that African countries should come up with a uniform or a common expectation. So given that NDCs are actually the heart of the Paris Agreement, so according to you, maybe what do you think is a top priority or are the top priorities that African countries should integrate into their NDCs in a unified or in a uniform way? Thank you.
So maybe I will suggest to take the second question and then give the panelists the floor. Is any other question? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your words so far. You spoke particularly about displacement and internal displacement, and I wonder if you could say a bit more about the effect of cross-border displacement within the continent in Africa, and what sort of responses or what the climate impact of that is of movement of peoples, either due to war or because of climate, but also what the responses are, how to properly support people when they have been displaced, what support might be needed to help people return, and how that fits in with the impact on reducing emissions and the impact that it has on different countries who are experiencing that. Thank you.
Thank you. So who wants to respond first? Brian?
Okay, thank you for, I'll start with the first question. So I think one of the things that needs to be really factored in NDCs on how Africa can tap into its potential to harness renewable energy. Africa is endowed with sunlight, and I think if our governments really invest much on solar power, we are going to really, maximize on this, blessing that we have. We have a lot of potential to harness wind, geothermal, hydro, and so one of the things that I think, even as the global community transitions into, seriously investing in renewable energy, I think Africa has been blessed and endowed with a lot of potential, and I think this is one thing that as Africa we should really focus on and invest in, so that we can be able to use this to supply the local needs and the needs of our communities in regards to access to energy, not just for lighting, but for cooking, for heating, and for all these other needs. It's sad that most of the time we talk about energy in our context, we always think about electricity, and that's why issues of clean cooking are not really well and fully addressed. And yet in Kenya, for instance, over 21,000 deaths annually are as a result of indoor air pollution, which affects more so women and young children, and is as a result of cooking. And this is something probably people will not really give attention to, but it's one of the things that I think need to be addressed. So we need to look at the whole aspect of the energy access and not just lighting. On the issue of cross-border fightings, just even in Kenya alone, we are segregated in terms of communities and tribes. So we have had issues of in the Rift Valley, for instance, we've had constant wars against communities, because apparently one community, their area probably dried up and they're pastoralists, and they had to move to the neighboring community for search of pasture and water, and therefore the other community feels offended because these people are going to probably consume the little they have, and therefore that brings on the war, and people lose lives. These people are ready to fight and protect the little that they have, and in turn people lose lives, and therefore that is the extent to which enmity and animosity is created. And so when this community fights the other one will always want to revenge and now it has become, a seasonal sort of thing that is occurring every now and then. And people don't realize some of these things are because of climate change. And so there are problems, and solutions is, for me, if we address, if we have proper solutions to address the climate change crisis, we can be able to cut down on, some of these conflicts that we are experiencing in our communities. Maybe my colleague can also add on what I've not probably missed out.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's addressed most of the issues, really. But maybe I just make key points, and then because of time, that it's fast spent. I think the peculiarity of the informality of most of the African parameters needs to be focused on. Now, Europe is discussing energy transition for renewable energy. Africa is discussing what? Energy access with the same solution. We are trying to use the same technology but to address different issues. So one is that Africa we need to be looking at integrated approach. Integrated approach that takes into factor the development catching up process for Africa. I mean, here America is not discussing development; they are discussing reduction of emission. Here, Germany is not discussing development; they are discussing reduction of emission. Now, Africa cannot sit in the same room to discuss reduction of emission alone. We discuss here, it get back home, zero. We need to look at how Africa can integrate reduction in climate emission, as well as facilitating and fast-tracking its growth. If we don't go that way, it will only head in talks. So I think that will be the key point, and also the issue of exporting of emissions. When developed countries have used good cars and then we import in Africa. If we tap into local resources, local technology to develop our own solutions, I think this can be addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we are ending this session, and I think that we had really great discussion both with the panelists and from the question from the audiences. I would say that based on what I've heard, you need really to engage youth. And tackling climate change is not only the responsibility for one institution or two institutions, but we need our Africa unity and involving all of the stakeholders. And youth is our future generation, and the most impacted by this climate as well. So I think that's one of the key messages that we need to involve youth. And one thing as well is regarding our African solutions. We need really to move now from piloting and from talking, but really move into action, as we see how climate change is really, speeding, and we are already, Africa, we have already experiencing the impacts. So we need really to move to actions. And one thing that has been in the WWF the Panda Hub, I would say that something that I would like to raise as well is the role of nature. Because as we know, Africa, we are really hosting, I would say, huge nature, and how we can push forward the nature-based solution for Africa, something that maybe we have not time really to discuss further. But I think one of the key outcomes that we are waiting for this COP26 as well, and how we can unlock that. And the last thing is regarding financing. I think that you touched base a little bit, but how we can really have resources to speed the implementation of our locally led actions, and more implementing more action at scale as well. So I think that Africa is ready to lead transformative change, and really to be at the upfront, really to share our solutions for this climate fight. So again, thanks so much, colleagues, and I hope that we enjoyed the discussion today, and we can bring together as well our thoughts to lead this transformative change for Africa. Thank you.